Hello, my name is Marc and I'm the Dean of the College of Graduate Studies. Today, I'd like to talk with you about funding your graduate education. I'd like to begin by reminding you of what a great value an SJSU education can be. Earning a credential, master's, or doctorate from SJSU is a critical step in advancing you towards a career in your chosen field, and often opens doors to professional opportunities, including at many of the fine institutions shown in this image. But while an SJSU degree is a great bargain, it is still expensive. And the purpose of this recording is to help you to get an overview of how you might finance your education. I want to be clear, this is not going to be a detailed description of the specifics of any particular funding opportunities, because there are complicated eligibility requirements that you'll need to work through given your particular circumstance. But I do want to make sure that you're aware of the different options generally that are available to you so that you can dig in further in funding your education. The first thing I'd like to do is to remind you that there are basically three broad categories of financial supports that are available to you. The first of these falls into the general category of financial aid. These are funding mechanisms that are typically based on a student's financial need. In order to establish your financial need, you need to fill out a particular form that many of you have already completed, called the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA, or the California Dream Act application. This form basically establishes the extent of your financial need and is the entry into a number of the financial aid types of supports. A second category of financial support is university employment. There are often quite a number of different opportunities for you to work on the university campus or with university personnel in a way that can help to fund your education. And the third broad category is external fellowships, which are typically very competitive, often merit-based, and they allow you to bring in funds from outside of the university to support your graduate education. So I'd like to start by reviewing some aspects of financial aid. As I mentioned earlier, typically this is based on a student's financial need. And the group on campus that administers financial aid is called the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office, or FASO. There are roughly three categories of financial aid that can be considered to finance your education. The first of these are referred to generally as grants. And grants tend to be funds that can be provided to you that you do not need to repay. There are federal Pell Grants, but they have strict eligibility criteria and are focused primarily on undergraduate students, but also are available to students in a teaching credential program. There are state university grants, which require substantial financial need. You have to have on your FAFSA form an estimated family contribution of less than $5,000. And there are educational leadership grants, which are designed specifically for students in our EDD program who are California residents. The second broad category are loans. And loans, as I'm sure you know, are funds that must ultimately be repaid to the person who provided them. There are educational loans, which are essentially long-term loans, which are administered by our Financial Aid and Scholarship Office. Some of these are supported by federal funds, thus reducing the interest rate, such as Stafford educational loans. But we also have emergency loans, which are really short-term loans, which are available to students who have experienced a difficulty that requires immediate funding, and these are administered by the Bursar's office. The third category is generally referred to as scholarships. And there are a lot of different scholarships that are available to you. If you get no other message from today's recording, it is please review the available scholarships, because there are many, many that may be very helpful to you. I have broken these down into two categories based on who administers the scholarships. The first category is those scholarships that are administered by the College of Graduate Studies, our office. And they include the Bertha Kalm Scholarship, the Chancellor's Doctoral Incentive Program, the California Pre-Doctoral Scholarship, and the Graduate Equity Fellowships. Each one of these is designed for students with different needs and different career aspirations. The Bertha Kalm Scholarship, for example, is focused on students who are interested in making a difference in their community. The Graduate Equity Fellowships are largely focused on providing equal access to education for people who have been historically disadvantaged. And the Chancellor's Doctoral Incentive Program and California Pre-Doctoral Scholarship Program are both for folks who ultimately plan to go on to a PhD degree. And I encourage you to go to our website to review the details of each of these scholarships. I should mention in passing that you'll see that many of the slides here have hyperlinks to them, and we will make this PowerPoint available to you, and you can then just access the information through the hyperlinks. The second broad category of scholarships are those that are administered by the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office. And I emphasize again, there are many, many scholarships, and often they are department, college, or field-based. So there are 3 links here that you can consider. One of them is for the College of Education, one for the College of Social Sciences, and one for the College of Humanities and Arts. Each of these 3 web pages includes a list of scholarship opportunities available for students within those particular colleges. But even if they're not on these lists, there are many, many other scholarships that are available, and you should consult with the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office to get information. We are working in the College of Graduate Studies on developing a comprehensive list of scholarship opportunities that are available to graduate students, but this is a big task and we haven't launched that yet, but we hope to launch it within the next month or 2. Moving on to the second category, which is university employment, I want to focus on a few different types of employment that are available to many students. The first is the opportunity to serve as a teaching associate, or a TA. This is, as the name indicates, a teaching position where you, in collaboration with a faculty member, actually teach a course, often to undergraduate students. The TAs for any particular course are selected by departments based on their teaching need. And a very nice benefit of serving as a TA at the SJSU campus is that it includes a tuition remission. However, you must submit a request for that through our university personnel office. A similar type of job that's available to graduate students is called an instructional student assistant position. And these also are teaching positions, and they are also selected by departments based on their teaching need. A third category of job is a research associate. This kind of job is available when a faculty member is working on an externally funded project and wishes to hire a graduate student to help them to advance that project. Whether or not you are able to serve as a research associate depends upon your qualifications to do the work that's needed, and also on your research advisor's current funding status, whether they have funding to support graduate student research associates. There is another category of work that is generally called work study. You have to be a US citizen or permanent resident or a DACA recipient. And work study, unlike the other forms of university employment listed here, are administered by our Financial Aid and Scholarship Office. And finally, I wanted to mention the position of writing tutor. We are hiring at the university a number of graduate students to serve as writing tutors for other graduate students. So if you have great strengths in writing and you're interested in serving in this capacity, please contact the Writing Center for an application. Now, regarding external fellowships, there are also way too many to list. However, there are some really good websites that compile lists of external fellowships that are available to graduate students. I've linked 3 of them here. One of them is from the University of California, Davis. One of them is from UCLA, and one of them is from a website called gradschools.com. And all 3 of these have reasonably robust lists of fellowships with links to the sites that give you more information about the eligibility criteria for the fellowships. But I decided I would just point out a few examples of the kinds of external fellowships for which graduate students might be eligible. One is the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. Now, there are eligibility requirements. You have to be a US citizen or permanent resident. You have to be in a STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, or math graduate program. And you have to be not later than in your first year of graduate study. But as you can see, the stipend is substantial. It's $34,000 per year for a couple of years. And there's a $12,000 per year additional research support portion of the fellowship. So it's a very beneficial fellowship for your graduate career. Another example is the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, which is available to US citizens or permanent residents or DACA recipients who are of Hispanic heritage, have a GPA of 2.5 or higher, and it's a smaller fellowship. It's up to $5,000, but still that can really help with paying your graduate school expenses. A third example is the Smithsonian Institution Fellowship Program, which funds up to $40,000 to have a graduate student actually go to the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, DC, to participate in a research program. Another example is the Fulbright Students Program, where if you're a US citizen with a bachelor's degree, you can apply to study or to do research in a foreign country. And the Fulbright program pays both a stipend for your support plus defers your expenses. And another example is the Soros Fellowship for New Americans, which is specifically designated for either immigrants or children of immigrants who are under 30 years of age who are currently in a graduate program. And as you can see, it has a very lucrative stipend as well. So all of these are just examples. They all have very specific eligibility criteria. Many of these are very competitive, but do not assume that because a fellowship is competitive that you should not apply for it. Don't fall into don't make the mistake of assuming that you would not be a good candidate. You might well be the best candidate for one of these fellowships. So please consider applying. It is sometimes good to get a reality check about whether there are other students who are similar to you that might have succeeded in the past. And that can often be obtained by talking with a person in your field, such as a program director in your graduate discipline or your research advisor. So the question next is, how do you move forward? I've given you an overview of the kinds of financial supports that might be available to you, but what do you do next? I would say that the first thing is to determine the availability of, and also your eligibility for, the teaching associate, the instructional student assistant, and the research associate positions in your field, in your department. Because these are often a very robust way to support your graduate education. For TA and ISA positions, please talk to the department chair that supports your program, because it is the department chairs who have to determine who's going to be teaching the classes. And so they're the ones who know best what the teaching opportunities are. As I mentioned before, for a research position, you need to talk to the research director and find out what his or her availability of extramural funding is to support the research in their lab. Now, one thing I want to remind you, if you are hired as a TA, make sure you fill out the tuition fee waiver form, which is linked here. Another thing that you can do in thinking about funding your graduate education is to view the video that's been prepared by Financial Aid and Scholarship Office Director Khalida McElroy, which is part of this module in our graduate student welcome. Also, if you're going to pursue a scholarship, complete the FAFSA form if you have not already done so. You should talk with folks, either your graduate program director or your department advisor, about which scholarships might be most suited for you. There are, as I mentioned earlier, internal scholarships that are focused in particular programs. And so they can tell you that there may be a scholarship ideally suited for someone in your position. And then please consider applying for these external fellowships. You again should consult with an advisor to see whether or not there's a reasonable chance for you to do it and whether it's worth your time to apply. But in general, if you think that there's a chance of you getting it, you should absolutely apply. As they say, you cannot win if you do not play. So with that information, I simply want to wish you the very best and thank you for your attention at this video.